I opened the gate up yesterday so the animals can go out into the back and go walk around on the grass if they feel like it. And so this morning, okay, so yesterday I was talking about my numbers, and this morning I sat down to really think about it. I said, well, what am I gonna do? What's the plan, right? What's the plan? What am I gonna do? And I talked about this before in the past, but the idea of a good idea, okay, so you can't really get a good idea from taking somebody else's idea. Like if you took my idea and you copy and pasted it, it's probably not a good idea, because a good idea for you is going to be different than a good idea for me. But the big fundamental idea of a good idea is to take a look at your situation as of right now and figure out something that is advantageous for you, and then to act upon it. And so I've always said, I've said this repeatedly, but the idea of a good idea is you need to go and find one for yourself. You need to take a look at your situation and figure out a good idea. A good idea for you right now might be to read a book, right? It might be to go and learn something new. It might be to sit there and come up with a reasonable plan. No, I would not suggest that you wake up tomorrow and decide that you're suddenly going to go off and become a cattleman. I would highly I mean, if you want to, at the end of the day, it is a free country. Okay, you can go and do it. I mean, I'm not stopping you from doing it. I would highly think about it for a minute. Okay, think about what you're trying to do. Right? Like, are you sure you actually want to even run cattle? Are you sure you can even do the work? Right? I mean, it's like you can, but at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want. If you want to go and you want to take you want to go and take a loan for 60 grand, and you want to go and run 40 cattle, then knock yourself out. Right? I mean, have fun. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. I'm definitely not going to help you. I mean, you're on your own. I mean, it's your idea. You come up with your own plan and you go and do it. Don't sit there and act like a tard and hold on to me. I'll kick you off of me. I will watch you die before I help you. I'm serious. Don't ask me for help. It's like if you go and you ask Elon Musk for $5, Elon Musk not going to give you $5. Warren Buffett not going to give you $5. Bill Gates not going to give you $5. If you're poor, there's a reason you're poor, right? You're a massive pile of problems, probably cannot be saved under any circumstance. As of this moment, you probably can't. And so, if you want to go and run cattle, go and knock yourself out. I mean, have a blast. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. I would highly discourage it, though. If you go and you run cattle and you figure out what you're going to have to do, I mean, you're probably going to crap yourself and quit. And, and to be completely honest, like if we take a look at the world for what it is, the most in terms of like investments, from what I understand, the most millionaire investors are in real estate. That's from what I understand. You're not going to see a bunch of cattlemen become millionaires. You're not going to see a bunch of stock market investors become millionaires. You're not going to see a bunch of service industry investors become millionaires. From what I understand, the real estate industry is the highest probability of anybody becoming a millionaire. And I was talking about this, I've talked about this pretty thoroughly, but most people, if they say they want to start a business, they're not actually interested in starting a business. Most people are just interested in making some more money. And it's like if you went out right now and you learned how to, learned how to do the business portion of things. You learned how to look at a deal. You learned how to see, how much is this deal going to cost me every month? Is it going to cash flow positive? How much equity am I going to retain every single month? When you just learn how to do that, and then you can go and buy yourself a fourplex, right? You can go and buy yourself a fourplex. And if you buy yourself a fourplex, you could live in one portion of it and rent out the other three, or you could rent out all four and then take the extra money that comes off the top of whatever it is that you want to do. And in 30 years, 20 years, you'll have the property paid off. And, when you're 50 years old, you can sit there and make your, $15,000 a month, right? And chances are, and I've already talked about this too, but the cattle business is 100% a skill-based business. 100%. If you can't do it, you can't do it. It's like playing basketball, right? I mean, it's like if you think you can play basketball like LeBron James, congratulations, you're a moron. I mean, how you can't do it. I mean, if you actually want to play, play basketball at a very high level, I mean, it's probably too late for most of you. It probably just is. I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. There's no reason for me to look at a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 50-year-old, and tell you, like, you've suddenly decided that you can play basketball like LeBron James, and there is legitimately zero good reason for me to sit there and tell you that you can play basketball like LeBron James. You can't do it. And if you genuinely believe that you can, I don't know what I mean, that's not good. That's not good, right? I mean, it's not good. And so realistically, if you, in terms of just statistics, if we are just going to look at the population for what it is right now, chances are your chances of becoming a millionaire are the greatest if you become a real estate investor. You don't need to start a business, right? You don't need to start a business. You don't need to win some lottery. You don't need to go and invest in stocks. If you buy one rental property and then you hold on to it for the rest of your life, chances are that will make you a millionaire. Statistically and just mathematically and just everything, just reasonably speaking. If you go and you buy let's say you go and you buy a fourplex right now, and you buy a fourplex and you pay $6,000 a month for it, but the fourplex produces $7,000 a month. So it produces a $1,000 a month positive cash flow. Let's say you go and you get a 1-year non-payment agreement on it, and then you raise the rates, you raise the rents by $100 a door. Now you're net positive $1,400 a month. Cash flow, just straight cash flow. And then every time you make a $6,000 payment to the bank, you're retaining about, let's say one fourth, a quarter of that in equity via principal on your payment. And it's like now you're producing for the first let's say for the first 5 years of the loan, you're producing one quarter of your payment is going towards the equity on the property. So now it's like you're producing $1,500 worth of equity a month, and you're also producing $1,400 a month of net positive cash flow. And if you hold on to that real estate property over the course of your life, let's say you buy it when you're 30, and then by the time you're 55, you've paid it off. And it's like, by the time you're 55, and I've already talked about this, but chances are I would almost be willing to bet right now, if you're paying $1,000 a month for rent, in 20 years, I would be willing to bet. Right now, the year is 2024. If you are paying $1,000 a month for rent, by the year 2044, you will be paying $1,500 or more. I would be willing to bet. And if you get a fixed rate interest loan, then it's like congratulations. And it's like if you're paying if rents legitimately go up by like $500 a person over the next 20 years, and you got a fourplex, that's an extra $2,000 a month for you. You've paid off your loan, and congratulations. Now you got your $9,000 a month that you're collecting off your fourplex. You don't owe the bank anything. And now you can just sit there and make your $17,000 or whatever. Let's say you make $9,000 a month on a rental piece of rent, a fourplex, and then you got a job like the average American and make $3,000 a month. And I've actually talked about this too, but like me, if I legitimately went and worked at Walmart, if I worked at Walmart as a cashier and I just continued to run my cattle, if I just continued to run cattle and I just worked as a cashier at Walmart, I would still be making like $8,000 a month. And this is what I mean by, if I legitimately went and worked as a cashier at Walmart, and then when I came home, I worked my 40 hours a week at Walmart, and then when I was done working at Walmart, I just came home and I worked on my cattle, I would still make like $8,000 a month. Legitimately. Right. I mean, take a look at it for what it is. I mean, a couple days ago, I was at Walmart and I was just taking a look at the guy working at the cashier, and I was like, well, if I had your job, I would still be making almost $100,000 a year. Because when I go home, I'm going to be running cattle. When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to be running cattle, right? The 40 hours a week at Walmart is not going to be the only thing that I'm doing. And so it's like, if I work 40 hours a week at Walmart as a cashier, I would still be making like $8,000 a month. Legitimately, like close to 100 grand a year after taxes. And it's like, I thought that was interesting, that was what I was thinking about when I, because this guy was, this young guy was scanning my items at the cashier, and he was just scanning my items. And I sat there for a minute, and I took a look at him, and that's what I thought about. I was like, if I had your job, even if I was working as a cashier at Walmart, when I go home, I'm going to be running cattle. When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to be working on cattle. I'm going to be working on my business plan. I'm going to be coming up with an idea for my future. I'm going to be thinking about all these things and doing all these things. And at the end of the day, even if I had that job, I would still be making like $100,000 a year after taxes. And I thought that was interesting. And right now, one of the things that I was taking a look at my numbers this morning. And so the feed that I got these animals on right now, I purchased I purchased dozens of tonnages, right? I mean, I purchased about 30 tons, right? I purchased about 30 tons of feed. And I got like it cost me like about 10 grand. It cost something like that. I got like 30 tons of feed, and it cost me like 10 grand. And right now, as long as the animals eat it, I'm actually making money on it. And so with grain prices, with where the commodity markets are right now, and granted that I run the right type of animal at the right weight, I am essentially making money every time I feed my animals. And so the $1,500 a month of expenses that I got right now, I'm not even considering it, because at the end of the day, here's what my numbers look like. Right now, about for the next 4 months, I won't be putting any money into growing, well, for about the next 2 months, I won't be putting any money into growing grass. But even when I put money into growing grass, if I was going to grow 10 acres of grass, it cost me about $500 a month. It cost me about $550 a month. And so right now, and every time I feed my animals, granted that I run the right type of animals at the right weight, and I give them the right diet, and I purchase my commodities, at a commodity price, I am making money every single time I feed my animals. So it's like I give them $1 worth of feed, and I actually make $2. And so I'm not even considering the feed as an expense right now. And so the big idea, when I was taking a look at my numbers this morning, and I was coming up with a plan, right? I was coming up with a plan. What am I going to do? I got about 6 months until my credit lines expire. I'm in debt about 60 grand. And, it's 60 grand is a minuscule amount of money. I mean, if you really think about it, it's like this month alone, I made about $23,000. So 60 grand is a very, very, very minuscule amount of money. It's almost negligible. I mean, I shouldn't even, 60 grand is such a small amount of money. It's almost, and if you want to think about it in terms of what does that money get me, think about it this way. Over the last about 20 days, about the last 25 days, I made about $23,000. Think about it that way. It's like, I can pay off 60 grand. I can write a check for 60 grand. It would take me like what, 2 months? 60 grand. If I legitimately, if my big goal was I have to write a check for 60 grand, it'll take me like 2 months, right? I mean, legitimately, it'll take me like 2 months. I just need to liquidate my investments and I'm good to go, right? And so, right now, I was taking a look at my numbers this morning, and I was coming up with a plan. I got to figure out, what am I going to do? I got this real estate property that I'm working on. I got $60,000 worth of debt. I essentially have 40 cattle because I do have a couple of plainer animals, and I also have a couple of animals with a bad leg. And so when I take a deduction on those animals, I essentially have 40 animals. But right now, I have enough feed to put all of my animals on feed for about 4 months. I won't need to put another dollar into feed, maybe about 5 months. I won't need to put any money into cattle feed at all for the next 5 months. And so if I was originally, if I did not buy my feed in bulk quantities, if I did not buy my feed, if I did not buy 30 tons of feed at a time, then it's like every single once in a while I would just have to buy feed. But right now I have enough feed to essentially feed all of my animals for about 5 months. And so I don't have to put any more money into feed at all for the next 5 months, at all, $0. And if I wanted to, I could even just not even grow grass, and I could just put my animals on feed. Legitimately, that is how cheap feed is right now. And there are a couple 100 acres of hay right next to me, and they've already got their first cutting, and they're already working on their second cutting. We might be in a situation where people get 4 cuttings of hay this year, and if people get 4 cuttings of hay this year, hay prices are going to stay low. They're going to stay low. And if hay prices stay low, corn prices are also, from what I am hearing, in terms of just everything going on, corn is also going to be very low for the rest of the year. That's what people are anticipating. Corn is going to stay low for the rest of the year, so that's what people are anticipating. And so with grain prices staying low for the entire year and hay prices staying low for the entire year, I mean, chances are feeder cattle are going to stay high for at least the rest of this year, for the next 5 months, right? For the next 5 months, the feeder cattle price is probably not going to go down the can. And, the feeder cattle price is probably not going to go down the can. And grain prices are probably not going to skyrocket over the next 5 months at least. At least over the next 5 months. I've already talked about this, but I don't think that these conditions are going to last forever. Not even close. I mean, if anything, I don't know when it's going to happen, but the double whammy will happen. Eventually, it will happen. Eventually, it will. I would be willing to bet 50,000 to 1 that eventually the double whammy will happen. And when the double whammy happens and 2/3 of the profits evaporate from the cattle business, almost everybody will quit at the same time. I can almost guarantee it. And I've already talked about this. The cattle business, usually in terms of me, if I want to make money in the cattle business, it's like I got to grow grass, and I got to grow grass very well. And then, it's almost not, and I got to be, it's usually a relatively, a more intensive process. It's usually not just me bringing in commodity feed, putting my animals on it, and then just raking in thousands of dollars. It's not, it's almost, this is the only time that I've ever seen it like that. Ever. And so, I don't think that these conditions are going to last for very much longer. If things are, maybe for the next 5 months, and then sometime in the next year or so, we're going to get hit by the double whammy. Grain prices are going to go up. Because this year the weather was good, and that's what's keeping the grain price low. But if the weather is bad next year, then here we go, right? Grain prices going up, cattle prices going down in unison. The weather was real good this year. The hay fields next to my farm, they've already got a first cutting of hay, and their second cutting of hay is already about 6 inches tall. And we will probably have 4 cuttings of hay this year. And from what I understand, in the corn belt and in areas where they grow a lot of corn, there's a lot of corn coming in the Midwest and in the corn belt. There's a lot of corn coming in, a lot of corn. And so, corn prices are probably going to stay low for the rest of the year too. And feeder cattle prices are probably going to stay high for at least the next 5 months. And so I was taking a look at my situation, taking a look at my numbers, and I was like, what should I do? What is the plan? What am I going to do? And so the big plan right now is that for the next, I don't have to pay off my credit lines for at least the next 6 months. I got my credit lines open for 6 months. And right now I have enough feed. I could legitimately just put my animals on feed for like 4 to 5 months. I could just straight up put them on feed and make money on the feed as well. I mean, every time I feed them $1 worth of feed, it's like I make $2 back. And so right now in this situation that I'm in, I don't need to put any more money into the cattle feed for at least 5 months. So all of the money that I had budgeted for cattle feed, I can redirect it into buying new cattle. That's the big plan for right now. That's what I came up with. All of the money that I was going to put into buying feed, I have enough feed stockpiled to essentially feed. I could probably feed about 70 animals for about 5 months. And so right now the big plan is that I'm gonna get the barn. I'm gonna get a portion of the barn sectioned off into another preconditioning pen. That's gonna give me 2 preconditioning pens, and then I'm gonna let about 10 calves out in the smallest, weakest 10 calves are gonna go out in the front yard. And so that right there, if I open up a second preconditioning pen, that's 6 more calves. If I put 10 more calves on the front yard, that's 16 calves. And realistically, I could probably put about another 10 calves in the back as well. I could probably put about another 10 calves back here as well. So that's 26 calves, and I got 42 right now. So that would be about roughly 70 animals. And so right now I'm gonna work on raising my herd count up to 70 animals. And the way that I'm gonna do that is I'm just gonna start redirecting all of the money that I was using for fertilizer, cattle feed, etc., etc. And also, okay, this was also another big thing on the finance side of things, on the business side of things, is that I purchased a new tractor this year. I purchased a new tractor this year. I essentially got a tax write-off for about 95 grand. I got a tax write-off for about $95,000. And so I don't need to worry about my taxes this year. I can almost guarantee my taxes are going to be hovering around less than 50K the entire, because it's like, think about it, right? I mean, if I buy 70 cattle and a $100,000 tractor, I mean, that's practically like $250,000. That's practically like if I buy 70 cattle and I run 2.5 lot of cattle a year, that's 175 cattle a year. And so if I buy 175 cattle and I have a $100,000 tractor, I mean, that's a couple $100 grand right there, right? And so I don't need to worry about my taxes this year at all. I bought that tractor. My taxes are essentially negative. I'm paying negative taxes. I mean, my taxes are negative as of right now. I don't need to worry about the taxes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect all of the money that I would normally be using to grow grass and to buy animal feed, essentially about $1,000 a month, into buying new cattle. And I'm also going to reinvest all of my earnings, every single dollar. So if I go to the sale barn and I make a check for 6 grand, I'm going to reinvest all 6 grand plus 1,000. I'm going to reinvest 7 grand every single month into buying new cattle. That's how I'm going to do it. And so because I don't need to buy any more feed for about the next 5 months. I don't need to worry about taxes for the rest of the year. Why? Because I purchased a new tractor. I got a $100,000 tractor. And if I just purchase cattle at the rate that I'm going to buy them, the deductions that I get from the cattle, plus my new tractor, my taxes have practically gone negative. My taxes are practically negative. And so I don't need to worry about my taxes. I don't need to worry about opening up a new credit line and leveraging for more cattle. I don't need to worry about that. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do moving forward right now? Well, what do I see as a good idea? I'm going to reinvest all of my money. I'm going to reinvest $1,000 a month that I would normally budget for growing grass and feeding the animals. I'm going to invest that money. And I'm also going to reinvest all of the money that I make on my cattle. So if I go to the sale barn and let's say I make $6,000 at the sale barn, I'm going to purchase like 10 calves, 9 calves. Instead, if I sell 4 animals and I make 6 grand, let's say, my average right now, I've been making about $1,400, $1,500 an animal, right? I make about $5,500, $6,000 when I sell 4 animals. Well, what can I buy for $5,500? If I sell 4 calves, what can I buy for and I make $5,500? I can purchase like 7 calves for that money. So I can sell 4 and buy 7. And so that's what I'm gonna do with my money right now. I don't need to worry about taxes. I purchased a tractor, and if I just continue to purchase cattle at the rate that I need to purchase my cattle, just stick to the plan, then I will essentially be negative taxes. I will be negative on my tax, borderline negative. I mean, my income will be under 30 grand for the year already, just with the plan as it is. And so what am I gonna do? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm not going to worry about opening up a line of credit to purchase more cattle. I'm not going to worry about doing that. What I'm going to do, I essentially have my line of credit for 6 months. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take all of the money that I'm making, as well as all of the money that I normally budget for cattle feed, and I am going to purchase new cattle with it. Essentially, the long story short, I'm going to sell 4 animals and take that money, and I'm going to purchase about 8 animals. I'm going to double. I'm going to come home and I'm going to extend the preconditioning pen into a portion of my barn as well. And so I'm going to take a couple of the corral panels, and I'm going to section off the back piece of the barn, and I'm going to start using a portion of the barn as a second preconditioning pen. I'm going to take the money that I'm making, and I'm going to reinvest all of it. My taxes are practically going to be negative for the year. My taxes are going to be like my income is going to be under 30 grand. And in 6 months, I will pay off my loans. And so that's what I'm going to do. I don't need to put any more money into cattle feed probably for 5 months. 4 to 5 months. And here in about 3 or 4 months, I will need to start growing grass again. And I got another field. I got a 50-acre field where I can grow grass. And so right now, that is the big idea. That's the plan. And so essentially, I'm going to take all of the money that I'm making, and I'm just going to purchase new cattle with it. I'm not going to purchase any animal feed. I'm not going to purchase any fertilizer. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I'm not even going to buy a truck. I've already told myself this. I'm not going to buy a truck this year. No, I'm not going to buy a truck this year. I'm going to buy a truck next year, because the big idea is that if I redo everything that I'm doing again this year, next year, then I probably can reduce my taxes to nearly 0 again. I don't need any more tax write-offs, and the truck that I have right now is perfectly fine. And so next year, my income is going to skyrocket. Even right now, when I think about it, it's like if I run 175 calves a year, and I take them up to 500 pounds here, and let's say and then when they get up to 500 pounds here, I just take them over to my new field. Just on this field alone, I'll be making close to like 100 grand. Not 100 grand. About $80,000 just on this field. And then it's like if you include my other field, I'll be making over $250,000 a year. And so that's what I'm going to do. That's the big idea. That's the plan. I'm going to section off a piece of my barn as a second preconditioning pen. I'm going to take the $1,000 a month that I've been budgeting for animal feed, and I'm going to redirect that towards buying new cattle. And when I sell cattle, I'm going to reinvest all of my earnings into buying new animals. And the big idea right now is to increase the size of my herd. Because if I increase the size of my herd, my debt obligations become very, very, very minimal. Right now, I have about $60,000 worth of debt, and I essentially have 40 animals. But if I take my herd to 70 animals, and I still have the same amount of debt, if I take my herd to 70 animals, and I still have 60 animals, I am now in a situation where I am going to make a drastic amount of money. Over the next 6 months, I'll probably make about 40, 50 grand. And that's if I put my animals on a commodity feed. Legitimately, if I just buy the feed and feed it to the animals, I will still be making about 40, 50 grand in 6 months. And so that's what I'm going to do. That's the big idea. Redirect all of my money into buying new cattle. When I go, I'm not going to worry about opening up new credit to purchase new cattle. I'm not going to do that this year. I'm not even going to purchase a new truck this year. I'm not going to worry about it. I've already purchased a tractor, right? I've already spent 100 grand on a tractor, right? And so I've already spent 100 grand on the tractor. I don't need to worry about my taxes. And so if I just go and I purchase 175 cattle for the rest of the year, I put them on a 4-month rotation, and when they're 500 pounds, I take them over to my new field. If I just continue to do that, I don't need to worry about taxes for the entire year. So next year, when I'm more concerned about my taxes, I will purchase a new truck. I'll go and I'll buy a $100,000 truck then. And right now, the big idea is I'm going to section off a portion of my barn as a second preconditioning pen. I'm going to take all of the money that I'm making on the cattle, and I'm just going to purchase new cattle with it. And the $1,000 a month that I've been budgeting for cattle feed, I'm going to redirect that into just purchasing new cattle. So long story short, what it's going to look like is I sell 4 animals, and I come home with about 9 animals, about 8 animals. That's what it's going to look, about 8 animals. So I'm essentially going to be doubling up. And when I bring home 8 animals, I'm going to have a second preconditioning pen, and I can split up the animals into the 2 preconditioning pens, so I'm not jamming all of the animals into one preconditioning pen. So essentially, what I'm going to do right now, and the big idea for why am I going to do this, is to essentially increase my, because I got a new field that I've already got a new field underway, right? I need animals that I'm going to take over to the field to feed them on grass. And when I feed animals on grass, I make a ballistic amount of money. You know, right now I make about $40,000 every 6 months, but if I put them on grass, I would legitimately be making like 60 grand. And so that's the big idea. That's the plan. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to section off a piece of the barn as a second preconditioning pen. I'm going to redirect all of the money that I was normally budgeting for animal feed and fertilizer into buying new cattle. And I don't need to worry about opening up new leverage to purchase new cattle because I've already purchased a tractor. I don't need to worry about my taxes this year. My taxes are practically going to be negative. And so if I just continue forward with the plan as it is right now, I increase my herd size, then I will essentially be negative on my taxes. I will owe negative taxes for the year. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to take all of the money that I'm making in the cattle business. I'm going to buy new animals with it. And I'm also going to take the $1,000 a month that I've been budgeting for buying animal feed and fertilizer, and I'm going to redirect it into buying new animals. And what does that look like? When I sell 4 animals, I'm going to come home with 8 animals. And I'm going to do that until I'm at about 70 animals. I'm going to do that until I'm at about 70 animals. And so that's where I'm going. And here in about a month or 2, I'm going to have a new field. And when I have the 70 animals, I can start taking the bigger animals. Any animal that is essentially over 500 pounds, I can just take them over to my new field to feed them on grass. And yesterday, this is the last thing I'll talk about, and I'll call it a day. But yesterday, I actually got in contact with a man who surveys for water. He's a geologist. He's a geologist, and he goes around and looks at rock formations to find water. And he told me that if I paid him $1,500, that he would show up for a day and survey 3 spots, 3 1-acre spots, to essentially see if he can find water. And so and he also gave me a very interesting idea. And he told me that if he shows up and I pay the $1,500 and he cannot find water, he says another thing that you can do is called a playa pond. That's what something like that. And he said if you take a 1-acre piece of land and you slope it down 3 degrees, just a minuscule amount, 3 degrees into the center, and you drill a well hole in the center, and you have the correct rock, if you have a hard pan underneath it, if you have some fractured rock, or if you have a big empty space on top of a hard pan, you can actually create your own well, and it will collect a massive amount of water. And so he told me that the way you do it is that when he goes around and he looks around at the field, he told me that if he cannot find water, he will help me find a spot to produce or to create a playa pond. That's what he told me. And so I said, that's actually a very good idea. Like if you create a 3-degree slope, a very, very, very slight slope into the center, and then just drill a well hole in the center, the water will go rushing into the center. Even though it's just that much of a slope, the water will go pouring into the center. And if it rains real hard one time, I mean, if it ever rains to a pretty severe degree, there's legitimately so much water that it will actually flood the field. Like, I don't know if y'all just go back and watch my channel, but a 1 acre playa pond would collect a massive amount of water. A ridiculous amount of water. And so he told me that that's, you know, if he cannot find water on my property, he will help me find a spot to make a playa pond. And so I said the water problem is now solved. I'm gonna you know, the water problem is now solved. I know how I'm gonna get water. And so I just called it a day. I just paid the man $1,500, and then I just call it a day. And so you know, and he's gonna come up and he's gonna take a look at the rock formations under my field. And so I'm gonna worry about the cattle side of things, and that's what I got planned right now. That's the idea for right now. What is the big plan? That is what I'm doing right now. I'm just essentially gonna take all of the money that I was originally going to invest into you know, growing grass and buying feed. I'm gonna take that $1,000 a month. I'm gonna redirect it into buying new animals. I don't need to worry about opening up a new line of credit to purchase more animals, because I don't need the tax deduction from livestock. I got the tax deductions from purchasing a tractor. And so essentially, if I just continue forward with the plan as it is set right now, I will almost be negative on my taxes. I will essentially owe negative taxes for the year if I just continue forward with the plan as it is right now. And so and then I got to get proof of funding by October 31st, and then I also have to fund the deal by December. You know, by about December 20th or so, I have to fund the deal as well. And so those are two other things that I need to get figured out as well. And so right now, that is what I'm going to do. And you know, if I just do this plan, if I just go through with this plan, I will go negative on my taxes, and I will essentially put myself in a position where in about the next 2 to 3 months, I will have $60,000 worth of debt, but I will have 70 animals. I will have $60,000 worth of debt, but I'll have 70 animals. At that point, my debt obligation practically becomes negligible. And within the next 2 months, I can also just start taking animals from my field over to my new field to eat grass. So, you know, I'm good to go. That's you know, that's the big idea. That's what I came up with. And so that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.